Attention, I want you to see. It looks something like this.
Gentlemen, please welcome co-founder and CEO Twilio, Jeff Lawson.
Let's hear it! Welcome to Signal! Wow! It is, there we go. Look at that. It is great to have you all here today. You know, Signal it's this once a year time when we all assemble in this freezing cold, half-abandoned warehouse on a pier in San Francisco, and we get to talk about communications and code. It's really cool. We love it. We've got 2 days planned today. You know, tomorrow we're going to check in on our messaging products and our voice products. We got Mark Benioff. We got a lot of guests coming tomorrow. It's going to be great. But today we're going to talk about the role of APIs in this rapidly changing world. We're going to talk about the role of communications in building a great business. And of course, we're going to have some new products to talk about and maybe, just maybe, some live coding. You know, I love live coding. It's like this performance art, I feel like. And you know, there's this theme that you'll hear from Tullio. You'll hear us say this all the time. It's this idea that code is creative. It's something we believe wholeheartedly here at Twilio. See, there's this Hollywood narrative about the hacker who's antisocial, guzzling Jolt Cola in the back room, right? And I've just always hated that narrative, right? I think code is much more like art or making music than it is just about hacking something away, right? And that's different from the narrative that you frequently hear, right? We've seen amazing things built by you all, developers in our community. In fact, in just the last year, we've seen developers registering voters here in the United States with a bot you built on SMS and Facebook Messenger. Hopefully that was the developers. We've seen a company, this is awesome, there's a company in New York that's wired up all the independent pizza shops in America with a device they call Slice OS. And in aggregate, it lets them take orders online. In aggregate, they say it's the largest pizza chain in America. We've seen multiple developers in our community volunteer this year to help refugees in Greece find shelter by building an IVR that they could call into and get help. We've even seen a company build an internet-connected watch that detects heart attacks and gets you help in real time. So many cool things that we've been witness to you all building in just the past year. In fact, since the last Signal, 1 year ago to this day, your applications on Twilio have powered 28 billion interactions with people all around the world. That's amazing. You know, we power those interactions with people all around the world, and you use phone numbers from Twilio to communicate with many of those people, right? And 1 year ago on this stage at Signal, we had 52 countries where we had local phone numbers available to you. Today, that number is 70 countries. But in just a few months, that number is going to be 100 countries where we will have local phone numbers by this summer. That's almost double where we were last year. We're really excited about that. Now, I want you to meet some people who helped bring this to you. Meet Team Twilio. We're over 900 people, builders, operators, people on the front lines working with you all every day to help you build the amazing things that you do. And about half of Team Twilio are developers, our R&D group, over 400 people. And see, we talk to customers every day. We talk to you. And we hear what your priorities are, and we've internalized them as our priorities, and they drive everything that we do. We've internalized them. They're like a North Star to us. And I wanted to share those with you today. We have our 3 product priorities. First, quality. Deliver superior quality in everything that we do, because we believe trust is the #1 product that we sell. Number 2, give you flexibility. That's because no 2 companies are the same. No 2 approaches to writing code are the same. No 2 set of systems you have to integrate with are the same, and no 2 kinds of customer experiences that you're trying to create are exactly the same. So our job is to give you the flexibility to get exactly what you want. And third is to get you to production fast. Give you the power of that flexibility, but do so ever faster every day. Scaling out should be just as easy as building that prototype. So how do we fulfill on these promises? Well, we've got something internally that we call agility with resiliency. We've spent years investing in the systems that allow us to be both agile and resilient. This means we can innovate quickly without compromising on quality. Because again, as I said, trust is the #1 thing that we sell. Let me put this into perspective for you. A lot of enterprise companies, SaaS companies, they do 1, 2, 3 annual big deployments of their product to production. Well, last year at Signal, I shared with you that in the prior year, we had done over 6,000 production deployments of Twilio in the past year. And since Signal, 1 year ago today, since Signal, we've done over 11,000 production deployments. But that's not all, because in calendar year 2017, we're on pace to do 30,000 production deployments of Twilio. 30,000 times we ship code to production. We got our continuous delivery folks in that corner, right? This is almost 10x where we were a year ago. And what does this mean? We are shipping smaller deploys. We're doing so more incrementally. We ship faster, and we do so with less mistakes. That's the value of continuous deployment. It lets us get more done on your behalf. But really, what you care about is what's in those deployments. Well, this is a buildup of our deployments and some of the major features and products that we've launched in the past year. As a customer-focused company, we're always listening to you, what you need to be successful, and we're building those things. Like for voice, our Insights product, or SIP registration we launched this year. For video, we've got peer-to-peer rooms, group rooms, recording, and more. For messaging, we launched Insights, SMS validity period. We brought chat to GA, phone numbers. We've got toll-free numbers around the world now, a brand new porting API, whole new product lines, Twilio Sync, our new programmable fax API. And for the enterprise, we've got our enterprise plan, ISO 27001, single sign-on, and a bunch more. We're really busy with this agility. In fact, since last Signal, since 1 year ago, we have shipped a major new feature or product every 3.5 business days on average. Every 3.5 business days, something is in your hands to help you build a better company. So that's agility. But all that shipping wouldn't be useful if you couldn't rely on the things that we're building. And that's where resiliency comes in. See, we've been investing for years in this thing we call the operational maturity model. It's a way of evaluating and training our teams on 6 vectors of best practices. And we train them, and we make them pass the test before they can ship things to production and call their products GA. And we've been training our teams in this model, and in fact, in the last year, we've started taking this on the road and training customers and other companies in the model that we've been using to get agility with resiliency. And it's helped us accomplish a lot over the past several years. Let's take, for one thing, API availability. Right? We've continued again for another year to deliver 5 nines of API availability in the past year. In fact, in the last 3 years, we've only missed 1 month where we didn't have 5 nines. We're very proud of the success rate here. But speaking of success rate, that's something else that we measure. See, an API that is up but serving up errors, that's not useful to anybody, right? So we started measuring something we call the success rate. What % of all the requests hitting Twilio are actually served successfully? And by measuring and systematically identifying causes of errors, we're able to continuously drive this number up. And for the past year, this number has been well in excess of 5 nines success rate. And we think that's the number that you should care about. And there's one other number that you should care about. It's this one, 0. That's the number of APIs that Twilio has killed in the life of our company. We have never killed an API. And that's because we know that when you build on something, you need the company to stand behind it, right? APIs are not a short-term strategy. It's not something a company can dabble in when it's convenient. No, it's what Twilio does. It's what we love to do. And as I said, trust is the number one thing. And with developers, it's trust that the APIs are going to be there for you. And that's what we do. That's because we know whatever it is that you're building, you need it to get better every day. That's the value of the platforms you build on. You need it to be rock solid. You need it built on great fundamentals. That's what 9 years of building and operating APIs has taught us. That's how you build developer trust. And speaking of developers, last year, we noted that we had 1 million developers in our ecosystem, 1 million developer accounts on Twilio. And today I'm excited to say that we now have 1.6 million developer accounts on Twilio as of today. Now, I want to put this number into perspective for you. See, every year for the past few years, we have doubled the number of new developers on Twilio every year. So the 600,000 new developers who've joined Twilio since a year ago, I say, welcome to Twilio. We can't wait to see what you build. Now, what's in it for all of you is as Twilio's developer community gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it makes Twilio better for all of you. See, the more developers that are building on Twilio, the more developers there are answering questions on Stack Overflow. The more marketplace integrations we're going to have that makes your Twilio account better. The more insights we get from talking to customers that allow us to build more and bigger and better things for you. That's the power of community. And developer community is a really big deal to us here at Twilio. In fact, one of the things that we love is helping new people join the world's developer community by writing their first line of code. In fact, I don't know if you know this, all new employees that join Twilio start by writing a Twilio app, by learning our product, and for those who aren't developers, right, they actually learn to code when they join Twilio, and we love that. And we love bringing that to the world. We love helping new people discover the joy and the creativity of coding. But also we believe that the developers of the world, the developer ecosystem of the world needs to mirror the diversity and the makeup of the world around us. The developers of the world need to mirror the diversity of the world we're building software for. And so we wanted to help do our part to bring about a more diverse and inclusive technology world. And so to talk more about some of the things that Twilio is doing, please welcome up LaFawn Davis, who's the Global Head of Culture and Inclusion at Twilio. All right.
Thanks, Jeff.
So LaFawn, tell us a little bit about what you do at Twilio.
Great. So as Jeff mentioned, my name is LaFawn, and I am Global Head of Culture and Inclusion at Twilio. What that means is I look after our employee experience, our company values, our leadership principles, and I also help to create an environment of inclusion, belonging, and equality so that diversity can thrive. Thank you. So, Jeff, you mentioned the number of developers that are on the Twilio platform. It's something like
1.6 million.
1.6 million. 1.6 million developers on the Twilio platform. That's just the Twilio platform. And actually, that's why I'm wearing my Twilio track jacket today, because even I am a developer on the Twilio platform. Actually, I don't know if everybody knows this, but I think it's really awesome that we encourage every single employee to develop something on the Twilio platform. And once you've done so, you get this track jacket and a Kindle as a rite of passage. It's a part of our culture. And I actually think that coding now is part science, part magic. But we need more doers. We need more people to have access to coding education and access to opportunities. But we can't do this in a bubble. We can't do this in a vacuum, and we certainly can't do this alone. There's an entire partnership ecosystem that helps to create more doers, that helps to create more access to coding education and opportunities. So these are 3 of the companies that we're partnering with: Hack Reactor, Hack Right Academy, and Dev Bootcamp, that provide accelerated coding opportunities. And they're focused on getting more female, marginalized, and underrepresented talent into tech. Now, their goal is to provide the technical, cognitive, and interpersonal skills needed in software development. We're also partnering with other types of organizations in this space, like Yes We Code and Lesbians Who Tech, who are focused on bringing hundreds of thousands of people of color, and those that are in the LGBTQ+ community, into tech by providing educational scholarships and program support. Now, I'm really excited to announce what we're doing in this space.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So we are launching an engineering apprenticeship program, and we're calling it Hatch. You know, like hatch your ideas.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's kind of like hatch your ideas, hatch your career, hatch innovation. Hatch is a 6-month apprenticeship program for people with non-traditional technical backgrounds who are underrepresented in the technology industry. You know, apprenticeship programs are all about on-the-job training and getting technical instruction from industry leaders. So for Hatch, apprentices will build solutions for nonprofits. They will sit on and within Twilio engineering teams, get hands-on experience, learn best practices, iterate on software systems, all while getting instruction and mentorship. Our goal is to get 100 apprentices through this program over the next 5 years. Now, the first cohort is starting in July, so this application process will be closed soon, but don't worry, it'll be back up again once the first cohort goes through, and you can always find out more information on twilio.com/hatch. Jeff, what do you think about that?
I'm really excited about this program. I mean, the idea that we can help people who are just starting their journey of becoming developers and, after a boot camp, actually start getting real-world experience, both working with engineering teams, building things, projects for Twilio, building things for actually some of Twilio.org's customers. I mean, I think there's so many cool things that we can do here, and it's all just about getting developers who are just starting that journey and helping them through that journey. Learning to code. I'm so excited about this.
Fantastic. We have some friends that are going to join us on stage, but before we do, let's see what they do.
In the United States, the majority of schools don't teach computer science. Globally, it's even worse. Code.org started with the simple idea that every student in every school should have the opportunity to learn computer science. And kids can do that on the computer, but we all know they want it on their phone. Code.org is used in classrooms, and the teacher teaching this classroom is not a computer science specialist. To get the kids' code on their phone, that's a hard challenge. It's only because of Twilio that we can make it so incredibly seamless and easy. It literally feels like magic. I love the fact that their first experience creating an app is built on Code.org, and then getting it on their phone is done with Twilio. For these students living in a tech-infused world, creating apps, creating technology is just going to be part of their lives. It's going to have a tremendous impact both on their opportunity in life, but also on the economy and the innovation of this country.
The year 2040 is the start of the decade when people of color will be the majority in the US. Code 2040 is a nonprofit organization focused on using the tech sector to close the wealth gap for Black and Latinx folks in the US. I think tech gets painted as kind of this source of inequity, and it doesn't have to be that. We set out with the hypothesis that just because you don't know the talent doesn't mean the talent doesn't exist. So the Fellows Program is what we're best known for. We source and vet incredible talent, and we'll have about 140 students interning with our tech company partners. Twilio's been a great friend of Code 2040 for several years. We're excited to keep working with them and thinking through ways that their diversity and inclusion work and our programmatic work can line up. The problems that tech will be able to solve when folks from all backgrounds are at the table creating the solutions is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen.
Everyone, please join me in welcoming Laura Wyden-Powers, CEO and co-founder of Code 2040, and Hadi Partovi, CEO and co-founder of Code.org.
Welcome, Hadi.
Thank you both for joining Jeff and I today.
Yeah.
Hadi, I'd like to start with you. So can you please talk about how Code.org sees having access to coding education, starting with children?
Sure, as you saw in the video, the problem we've been trying to solve, and we've now been at it for just a little bit over 4 years, is that while all around us we see tech exploding in terms of opportunity, growth, innovation, our schools don't teach computer science. And when we started, only about 10% of America's schools offered a single class in computer science. In just 4 years, we've gone from 10% to 40% of America's schools teaching computer science, which is a huge difference in access. If you look, for example, in the Bay Area and really around the country, every major city has now worked with Code.org to offer computer science classes. Over here, it's both San Francisco and Oakland. In Oakland, 2 years ago, none of the schools offered a CS class. None of the kids were learning to code. This fall, every single student starting in 9th grade is going to be required to learn coding, building apps, writing games, using Code.org, which is unbelievable. And throughout our work, we're now just reached a point where we have 18 million students learning to code on Code.org, most of them joined in the last 12 months, and roughly half of them are Black or Hispanic students. Roughly half of them are female, which means we're a few months away from being able to announce 10 million girls and 10 million African American or Hispanic students learning to code, which is just an unbelievable success story, and a success story about America's schools, America's education system, learning to add a new field to the curriculum.
Fantastic. Thank you, Hadi. Laura, would you please talk about how Code 2040 sees diversifying tech as a civil rights and economic justice issue?
Yeah, so at Code 2040, we really believe that the tech sector actually has the opportunity to close the racial wealth gap and eliminate economic inequality in the US. And that's because of two major trends, one economic and one demographic. So the economic trend first, I remember first learning this statistic. The average salary for an entry-level tech worker across the country is about $75,000. And you compare that to the median household income of a Black family, which is about $35,000, the median household income of a Latinx family, about the same. And you can start to see those two household incomes combined is less than what an individual makes starting to work in tech. And today, about half of all jobs at the top quartile by salary require technical skills. And at the same time, we're projecting that we'll have 1 million tech jobs unfilled over the next 3 years. So tech is exploding and there's a real need. But there's also this demographic trend happening at the same time. So Code 2040 gets its name from the year 2040, the start of the decade when people of color will be the majority in the US. And if you look at the economic wealth gap and the trends, if we did nothing, it would take over 200 years for us to see the wealth gaps closed across races. But tech has the opportunity to hugely accelerate that, the way tech has accelerated so many other things. The demographics of the country means that's our new consumer base, that's our new workforce, and so we've got to figure out how to create more pathways into tech so the industry can thrive and so these communities can thrive over the years. And that's what Code 2040 does. We create pathways into the tech sector for Black and Latinx talent, software engineers, and entrepreneurs to close the wealth gap in the US.
Thank you, Laura.
Wow.
So one thing in common with all the orgs that we shared today and with these two orgs is that they have really great goals, some really big goals too. But Jeff, are there any goals for Twilio that you'd like to share today?
Yeah, we have this big goal. I mean, I don't like to think of it as a moonshot because I feel like this should absolutely be achievable. But if we have this goal at Twilio where if we want the best talent on the planet to come and join Twilio and help build these great products, right? The best talent in the world is going to take many, many different forms, every type of person. And we need those people to want to work at Twilio, want to join the company, want to stay at the company. And so that means that in order to fulfill on that goal, we need our company to perfectly reflect the diversity of the communities where we are, right? And so that's my goal, right? We can build a company that perfectly reflects the diversity of the communities where we are, right? That is our goal as it relates to diversity and inclusion.
Great. Thank you, Jeff. So just as I shared before, Twilio can't do this alone. No other company can do this alone. Boot camps can't do this alone. Nonprofits can't do this alone. We really all have to work together. Would the three of you please share one thing any developer at this conference can do in order to create and support access to coding education and opportunities? Starting with Hadi.
Well, we have a website where engineers can volunteer to help in classrooms. So if you go to code.org/volunteer, that's an easy thing. But if you don't want to spend time volunteering, we also sell hats. So we also actually sell socks. So we'd love if you buy code.org swag to help just spread the word and make coding be more cool.
Fantastic. Laura?
This is an idea that came from a developer in our own community, but we realized that for a lot of the students who have gotten this computer science education, making the transition into industry is still really challenging. And actually about 1 in 5 computer science grads today are Black or Latinx, and yet the industry is about 5%. So a developer in our community said, in order to help hack that stat, I will volunteer in my lunch hour to do Skype interviews, video interviews with any underrepresented developer that's looking to break into the industry. And anyone here can do that an hour a week, which can totally change the trajectory of someone's ability to break into tech.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Jeff?
For me, I just think about when I'm on Hacker News or other sites where developers hang out, right? Sometimes developers are just kind of brutal to each other about I know so much more than you do, right? You know how developers are, right? And it's I just think if we can think about that, when we're interacting online, and we can think about how do we be just kinder to people? How do we think about the fact that every developer is at a different stage of learning how to code and at a different stage of their evolution and their, knowledge attainment, and just be more understanding and be more helpful to each other as we're all building up this skill and learning how to code. I just think that would make it so much more accessible for people who are just learning to not be afraid of joining the developer community online. I think that would be something every developer can think about when you're typing in the text box.
Thank you, Jeff. So as you heard today, we need you all to mentor, encourage, and engage, not just with the organizations that we shared here today, but with the coders to be, the coders of our future. So we're going to leave you with this one thought. What will you do, not soon, but right now, to ensure that coding is and remains accessible to all? Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Hadi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lafon. High five. All right, let's hear it again for these amazing folks. Yes. I'm really excited about Hatch. I think it's going to be an amazing program. We can't wait to get our first cohort started. Speaking of starting things, it was about 10 years ago, literally, that we first started working on Twilio, the idea that would become Twilio 10 years ago. See, I'm a developer, and I had started multiple companies before Twilio. And in every one of these companies, right, I had wanted to be able to communicate with my customers. And then every time I looked into how to do that, I realized you had to go buy all this complex gear, and it didn't do what you wanted it to do, and you kept trying to bang on it to get it to do the things you wanted. It was really hard. It wasn't flexible. It just couldn't do the things I wanted it to do. Right? Everything was big and complicated. And so we asked ourselves, why isn't that an API? Why isn't that an API? And that's where we started building Twilio, that simple question. right? And we ended up starting a company, a developer-first company, at the birth of the API economy. And as a leader in this API economy, people often ask me the question, right, where is this going, right? How big can this API economy get? And here's how I usually explain it to people. I say, just look at the history of software, of enterprise software, right? It started back in the 80s and 90s with big on-prem software deployments, big monolithic applications that took millions of dollars to buy, took years to deploy, and so the CIO is the one who made all the buying decisions, right? You had essentially one buyer inside of the company. Well, roll ahead, and about 15 years ago, along comes software as a service. And now it's a lot easier to buy those applications. They cost a lot less. They were much faster to deploy. And now suddenly, line of business owners inside of the business can be the buyers of that software, right? Your head of sales could buy Salesforce. Your head of HR could buy Workday. And suddenly you have many more buyers inside of the company, and the world of software grew. Now, a lot of people think that software as a service is the latest and greatest thing in the world of enterprise software. But the thing is, the fastest growing companies in software aren't selling to the CIO, aren't selling to the line of business. In fact, they're equipping the 20 million developers in the world to do fundamentally new things, right? Companies like Amazon Web Services, Twilio, Stripe, right? So many more people inside of the world's companies who can now become buyers of software, who can use these building blocks, APIs, to start building, right? Think about this. Amazon Web Services is the fastest growing cloud company in history. The first cloud company to get to $10 billion of revenue, right? That's crazy. They don't sell applications at all. So if you want to see where this is going, first think about how influential developers are becoming inside of every company. Because every company is becoming a software company. Every company, every industry, companies of every size are starting to become software companies. I recently read that Nike now employs more software developers than they do shoe designers, right? Or take General Electric, right? Think of them as like jet engines and washing machines. No, GE, according to CEO Jeff Immelt, GE is on track to become one of the top 10 software companies in the world. Or take Starbucks. Computer World recently ran the headline. Forget coffee, Starbucks is a tech company. Or take Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs employs more software developers than Facebook. Right? Companies of every shape and size, in industries new and old, are turning into software companies. Right? And there are these systems that all these companies are built on. Every one of these companies has these huge systems, right? They have these three-letter acronyms, right? Enterprise resource planning, HR management, customer relationship management, content management, supply chain management, business intelligence, right? These are the systems that every company is built on. And they started as on-prem software, and now many of them have moved to software as a service, right? But when you ask the question, right, how big can this API economy get? I think that's a question for all of us developers in the room and in the world, right? How many business problems are there that we could be solving if we had the right APIs first to go about solving them? APIs on which we could apply our creative energy and solve whole new categories of business problems. How many legacy systems are truly too inflexible to allow us to actually apply our creativity and get stuff done? So for each one of these big three-letter acronyms, right, I think that we have the opportunity to change how people think of the role of APIs in business. APIs will come to challenge every category. In fact, which one of these categories wouldn't be better if it was an API? Why isn't each one of those an API? Right? And actually, this is already starting. I've seen some companies that are doing API-first content management systems, like Contentful and Prismic. Right? What about ERP? What if Stripe becomes the next huge ERP company? Right? For every one of these categories, I would say, why isn't that an API? It's common wisdom to think that software is eating the world, but more specifically, we think that APIs are eating the world. That's because with APIs, developers get to apply their creativity to solving problems. And it's a partnership between developer-first companies and the creativity of software developers. That is what's going to eat the world. And we're really excited to be a part of it with all of you. So what's Twilio's role in all this? Well, when I talk to you, customers, and I hear what you're building, and I hear what kind of problems that you're looking to solve, we hear that you're trying to build ways of increasing your engagement with your customers. See, as digital businesses, how you connect with your customers is a really hard problem. And it's something that you're looking to Twilio to help you solve, right? Which makes sense, right? That's what I wanted when I was a developer and I was building businesses, and it didn't exist, and so we started Twilio, right? We started at the very beginning with this sort of simple idea. Can we connect into the communications networks of the world with voice, with SMS, and be able to talk to our customers? And so we started connecting up voice and SMS, right? And then when we started going about making it global and making it really resilient and hardened, and we were layering in all these carriers, we actually realized that we had built something else. We were using software to power this whole overlay network over the world's communications, and so we now call it our super network. And that was the first step. But then we moved on and we said, okay, well, wait a minute. We could build some really easy-to-use APIs on top of that to give the world's developers access to all those billions of devices around the world and make it really easy to program them. And we built things like Twiml that lets you control the flow of a call or a message flow. And then we built these intelligent services on top of that. Things like Copilot for SMS, or Insights, or Call Control, or the Media Engine, right, to power smarter content of those communications. Right? And then on top of all of those APIs, you all started building some amazing things. Things we never would have imagined when we built these APIs. You built this whole layer of engagement into your businesses to connect with your customers, right? You allowed all kinds of new communications, not just with your customers, but between your customers. You did things that legacy systems would have never, ever let you do, right? And as this happened, we started to notice that there were three distinct kinds of engagement that have emerged. Three different kinds. First, system communications, right? This is where a program or some process triggers an automated communication to a customer. Next is a departmental communication, right? That's when your customer needs to talk to a whole department inside of your company, like the sales team or the support team, right? Typically, you think of like a call center. And then third is individual communications, right? That's when your customer needs to talk to a specific person in your company, right? And as we looked at these three different types of communications, we saw that there's a pattern here. Every communication that companies do with their customers seems to fall into one of these three buckets. And I want to give you an example of this at work, because I had this great experience recently, and it just perfectly illustrates this concept. Now, people who know me kind of know that I tend to wear the same thing a lot. Kind of makes life easy. In fact, this is actually a picture of my closet at home. That is actually, I took that picture with my iPhone. But it turns out wearing the same thing every day is harder than it looks. Because people expect you to show up wearing that thing, right? So it involves a lot of dry cleaning. Now, I used to try to remember to take my clothes to a local dry cleaner, but I kept forgetting to take it. I ran out of clothes. And so I found this amazing service called Rinse. And it's actually awesome. First of all, they pick up and drop off your dry cleaning for you. But the thing that's really cool is they text you to remind you the days when one of their valets is in your neighborhood and can pick up your laundry. Right? So it's a really cool. In fact, I got some shots of the experience here, right? So you can see here, about twice a week, they have a valet that's in my neighborhood, and you get a text message that says, hey, Rinse will be in your area tonight. Reply with the letter Y if you want us to stop at your house, right? And so about once a week, I say Y, yeah, I need some laundry. I reply Y, and you can say there's some kind of bot, right, that just sees, it's a letter Y. Great, we added you to the list for tonight. And then you get this, your Daniel from Rinse is going to arrive in 45 minutes, and then Daniel's picked it up, right? So you get this system communications, all making this a really fluid experience. But sometimes it doesn't work out quite like that. Like this time, I was traveling and I forgot to reply why, but I realized I still needed my dry cleaning. So I just went and found the last message that I had from them, and I'm like, I wonder what happens if I reply with something other than why. And so I said, any chance I can get a pickup tomorrow? And sure enough, that message got routed to a person inside of a call center who could say, yeah, absolutely, we can make that happen. Awesome. But then another thing happens when I need to talk to a specific person inside of Rinse. In particular, it's the valet who's coming to my door, such as this time, when he's standing at my door, and I actually had taken my phone out of my pocket, was putting the kids to bed, and when I grabbed my phone, I realized, oh, oops, I missed the valet, and I texted him back, hey, sorry, can you come back? He's like, sure thing, I can swing around, right? And so you can see system, department, individual, different times in my engagement with Rinse, I need to talk to a different person, and every time they seem to have it nailed to allow me to talk to that person in a really easy way. And so I wanted to learn more about how they built this and how they came up with the idea to build this great interaction. So please welcome up Ajay Prakash, the CEO and co-founder of Rinse. Welcome up, Ajay. Did I do a good job describing Rinse?
That was a great job.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Now, I want to hear about how you came up with this experience of using text messaging, and how did you come up with this experience?
Yeah, well, my co-founder and I started Rinse in 2013, really with the main focus of removing all the friction that comes in clothing care. And when you think about clothing care, it's not just one point of friction, it's a lot of little points of friction across the clothing care experience. So if you think about dry cleaning, for example, you don't know who's a good dry cleaner, you just go to the nearest one, so you're held hostage to proximity. You can't assess quality until after you get your clothes back, and that's really one of the biggest issues with the industry is there's a lot of variability around quality and execution, so it's really a crapshoot for us as customers. And then the model is very vendor-centric in that cleaners are only open 9 to 5 and they're closed on weekends. So you and I as customers are rushing in the morning or the afternoon, and we have to do it twice to pick up our clothes.
That's why I'd always forget to do it, right?
That's right. And then there's limited customer service, limited transparency, limited tech enablement. And so we refer to this internally as death by 1,000 cuts. And our goal with Rinse was really to systematically dismantle the death by 1,000 cuts, create an easy and seamless customer experience, and really provide one simple solution for everything in the closet. And so SMS and Twilio SMS has really been a core part of creating that customer experience. When you think about making things very simple and easy, SMS is an incredibly clean medium. It's much less noisy than email. And if you think about the pain point we're trying to solve, it's a naturally recurring pain point where you just always have dirty clothes. And so one thing we really wanted to do with SMS was make sure that this was going to be an ongoing conversation with the customer as opposed to a one-off transaction. And then finally, I think when you think about the way companies are evolving and the way customer service is evolving, most companies out there are really trying to reduce human interaction and actually create walls and deflection in terms of communicating with the company. And for us, we wanted to take the other side of that and use SMS to make it really easy and seamless to interact with us and ask questions.
Yeah, like when I just picked up my phone and said, I wonder if I can reply to this, and it works, right? That's me as a customer saying, I want more Rinse, right? And you're there to listen. It's amazing. You guys have a mobile app as well.
Yep.
But I've only ever interacted basically via text, right? So how many of your customers use mobile app or text or any other medium that you offer?
Yeah, so we have mobile app and we have a website at rinse.com, and everybody signs up via those two channels. But what we find is that because we've made it so easy to interact with Rinse via SMS, because as you saw in the pictures, you can just press Y to create an order. You can SMS with our customer service team to ask questions. You can SMS with our valets. What we found is that the vast majority of people actually are just like you, where they only use this for SMS. Actually, more than 70% of our customers primarily interact with Rinse via text messaging.
Now, did you start off with this whole engagement model in your heads and you built it all, or was it more incremental?
Much more incremental. I think just like any other startup, you start off doing things that don't scale, and then if they work, you sort of figure out a way to scale them. And for us, we knew we wanted to create a seamless and easy customer experience. That was core to everything we were building. And Twilio SMS was really a core part of that. And so for us, it just started with actually texting manually and knowing that we wanted to build on that medium. And as the company evolved, as we had a better sense of the customer needs, we were able to evolve the systems to allow you to do automated things like press Y to create an order, to allow you to text with our customer service team, to allow you to text with our valet while they're on the road. And we continue to evolve and build on top of it, just knowing that it's such a powerful medium.
Awesome. Well, it is a fantastic experience. I, as a customer, love it. In fact, you brought a gift for the audience, I believe.
Absolutely, yeah. For anybody who is a customer or wants to give Rinse a try, you can actually just text Signal to 29523, which is our short code, and you'll get a Rinse credit.
Awesome. Let's hear it for Ajay and Rinse. Awesome company, awesome experience. Thank you, Ajay. It's really cool. So, it's so interesting. We saw this pattern emerge, right? System alerts, department communications, individual communications. But we also saw something else. We saw every company out there trying to reinvent the wheel, like seeing these patterns and seeing other companies build these great experiences and saying, how do I do that? Let me go figure that out on my own and start building it. But while you're figuring out something that essentially is already figured out, your backlog is piling up, you have other things that you maybe want to be doing while you're trying to figure out, how do I do what Rinse does? Or how do I replicate that experience that was so good, right? And so we said, what can we do to help, right? Like one common pattern that we saw here was just like Rinse is doing, sometimes you want to communicate with a customer on an SMS, but sometimes they've got a mobile app and they've enabled push notifications, and sometimes you want to push to them. Right? And we saw every developer trying to figure out, okay, what's the logic for when do I push and when do I do SMS? And have to figure all that stuff out. And so we asked ourselves, well, why isn't that an API? And so we built Notify. And Notify is our product that enables cross-platform notifications. We support push, SMS, and then we added Facebook Messenger and all sorts of other platforms. Another thing that we saw a whole lot of people trying to figure out, how do I add two-factor authentication to my app? Right, sending that, making that extra layer of security on top of my login page by sending you a 6-digit code when you try to log in. And we saw all these developers trying to figure out how to build that, and we asked ourselves, well, why isn't that an API? And it turned out it was Authy, so we acquired it, and now it's part of Tullio. Yep. But then look over here in the world of department communications. Right, we see all of you building things like call centers on top of Twilio and figure out, how do I use all this new technology to really build this great customer experience when you need to talk to a group of people inside my company? And one of the problems we saw so many customers trying to figure out was, I've got a call here, I got a bunch of agents over here, how do I figure out which agent should take this call? Right? Based on the skills the agent has, or based on the language that the agent speaks and the language the customer speaks. How do I match those things up optimally? And so we asked ourselves, why isn't that an API? And we built Task Router that does that, makes that part easy, right? It actually figures out automatically, given properties that you set on the call, the work, and properties you set on your workers, and we have this engine that can automatically match them up together, and you can configure the whole thing, right? And we've got a lot of customers building really cool things on Task Router. But I asked one of them to come join us today because they have a really interesting story about how they're using it. Many of you know Weight Watchers, right? But it's more than just a diet. It's actually a program to help people live healthier lives and change behaviors. And so I wanted to welcome up from Weight Watchers, Nick Ciccone, the product lead on an exciting new product they're building. Please welcome up Nick. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks for coming here. So first of all, just in case everybody's not familiar, tell us a bit about Weight Watchers.
Sure. At Weight Watchers, we help our members become the fullest, healthiest expression of themselves. We used to be about weight loss only. We're really a lifestyle now. Our product is based on 3 main pillars. Our food program, which helps our members guide them through healthier food choices personalized to their goals. Our community, with our social network called Connect, which is a private social network where members inspire each other. And finally, and maybe most importantly, our human support, where you have an army of leaders and coaches across the globe who are dedicated to make our members succeed on their lifestyle journey.
So you have like this ability for members to connect to someone when they need. It's almost like a traditional call center, like I need help, I need support, but it's a little different at Weight Watchers. Can you describe how that engagement is different than most companies' call centers?
Absolutely. So, 50 years ago, everything was happening in the physical space at Weight Watchers. You used to go to a meeting room where a meeting was facilitated by a Weight Watchers leader or coach. Fast forward 50 years, everything is omni-channel, and digital is everywhere as well. So for example, in our app, we have this 24/7 chat feature where a member can, anywhere they are, anywhere they want, wherever they are, they can chat with a coach. We also have another offering for coaching where members can have a one-on-one phone conversation with a coach of their choosing. So really what's amazing here is that we have this unique workforce. These coaches, these leaders, they used to be Weight Watchers members before. They were successful on the plan, and then they decided to join forces with Weight Watchers to help inspire a new generation of members on their lifestyle journey.
Wow, so it's like a call center, but it's almost like peer staffed. That's really cool, right? So if I understand it, like you have a solution, it's worked great, but you wanted to change it. You wanted to do some new things. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. So when it comes to our workforce, again, it's really unique. We have this traditional call center workforce, sitting in a call center. And we have this part-time workforce who's, part-time in a meeting room facilitating meeting, part-time sitting at home, either chatting with a member or on the phone with a member for a coaching session. And we have to basically manage this entire workforce consistently to route the right call, the right chat, the right email, the right social interaction to the right agent, to the right coach, to the right leader, to deliver the best possible customer experience. The problem with traditional call centers is that, maybe you don't know this, but they're not agile. Like Jeff was saying it earlier, there is no API for traditional call centers. There's literally no APIs there. And when you look at TaskRouter, for example, that's exactly what TaskRouter delivers for us. It's a channel-agnostic way of actually routing the right task, the right interaction to the right person.
Awesome. So you're using TaskRouter as sort of the basis of this multi-channel platform, and that's going to allow you to bring multiple channels and to workers who are distributed in a lot of different places and a lot of different types of customers who are reaching out to you in real time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Twilio for us is not just TaskRouter. At the end of the day, it's also Twiml, it's the programmable voice. But really, what's great about Twilio is that you get all these building blocks to play with. And you get this agility where every 2 weeks you can actually ship software that actually works. And it's not just about that, it's also about the external partners and vendors that you can connect to on top of this great platform that are basically integrated with Twilio. I've also had the pleasure of working with other call center experts now that are basically built on top of Twilio, and there's great learnings there for sure.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Well, good luck with this project. We're really excited about it because helping people connect and change their lifestyle and change behaviors, that's such a cool way of connecting people and helping them change their lives. By connecting with people who've been through it before, we're excited to help you do this. Let's hear it for Nick from Weight Watchers.
Thank you, Jeff.
Nick at Weight Watchers is a great example of every company becoming a software company. How many of you thought Weight Watchers is a software company? And Nick, I told him he could say this, but they're hiring developers too, so if you're interested. So what a cool story, right, about how they're building department communications. But that leaves us with the last box, individual communications. And the thing about this category is that it's changed entirely in like the last 10 years, right? It used to be allowing customers to talk to an individual inside of your company was pretty easy because all the people were just sitting at their desks and you had a dumb desk phone sitting there and you just called them, right? But nowadays, because of mobile phones, people are increasingly out there in the world servicing customers. And with bring your own device, people don't even have desk phones anymore. And so people are reinventing ways of allowing people to communicate with individuals inside of a company or those who represent the company, right? The nature of mobile workers is completely changed, right? Whether it's Nordstrom, who's using Tullio to allow personal shoppers to actually communicate with customers via text message using their own devices, but to do so privately, right? Or the rinse valets we just saw. Person who's actually coming to my door to deliver who can communicate with me directly. Whether it's the vacation rental industry, allowing renters and hosts to talk directly to each other, or whether the ride-sharing economy, where you allow drivers and riders to talk directly to each other, right? These experiences have been invented in just the past few years because of the changing nature of mobile workforces. And to hear more about some of the innovation that's going on, I wanted to invite up an innovator who's actually been at the front lines of figuring out some of these engagements. So please welcome up the CTO of Lyft, Chris Lambert. Chris, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So first of all, we probably all know how Lyft works, right? But that notion of connecting drivers and riders is really interesting, right? How important is it to allow you to connect a driver and a rider in the process of getting a ride?
Yeah, it's fundamental to everything we do. The pickup experience, which is everything that happens from the moment you pull out your phone to the moment you get in the car, is the thing that we spend the most time as a company thinking about. How do we make that as smooth and seamless and easy as possible for our users? And most of the time that goes great, and there's no problem, and you're in the car and you're on your way. But every now and then there's an issue. You're stuck at baggage claim. You're waiting on your bag. You want to give your driver a heads up. Maybe they're stuck in traffic and they want to let you know that they're going to be a couple minutes longer than we suggested they would be. So when that happens, it's really important we have a way for the driver and passenger to talk to each other. It could be SMS. It could be voice. But we wanted to make that happen, and for a long time, we've been looking for ways to make that process even better. So one of the important fundamental requirements of doing that, though, is that we protect the user's privacy. And we don't want to share a passenger's phone number with a driver or a driver's phone number with the passenger. So the way we do that is we built a proxy service where we basically can take an incoming call or SMS and figure out where do we send it. And the very first version of this, we actually had one phone number, one Twilio number for every driver on our system. And it was relatively straightforward in that you would call that number, it would go to the driver, and there wasn't a lot of infrastructure built around it. But what we quickly learned is it wasn't terribly efficient. Not all of our drivers are active at the same time. There's some intelligent things you can do around caller ID routing. So we started to build more and more plumbing around this proxy layer to make it work for us. How do you route calls when a driver's in a ride versus out of a ride? What if they're at home sleeping? So all that kind of complexity that we've had to build into the system is something that is important and adds to the experience, but is not something that is necessarily front of mind when you start down that road of hey, let's just allow our users to talk to each other.
So there's a lot of learnings that went into this. I mean, you've been building this system essentially for years, figuring out the pickup experience and
Yep.
how do I improve it. And so, what could have helped you along the way to have figured this out more quickly and more easily?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of the complexity that we encountered. We're in hundreds of different cities across the U.S., so having to figure out what area codes are assigned to what drivers, planning for growth and capacity planning, how many numbers do we need to have on reserve versus, buying on a daily or monthly basis. A lot of that work could be solved better by someone like Twilio and could make things easier for us, freeing up our teams to focus on the user experience.
Awesome. And what a great user experience it is. I think probably we've all taken a Lyft and we know how awesome it is. And we've got Chris and his team to thank for that. So let's thank Chris for coming and visiting us today.
Thank you.
Awesome experience.
Excited to be here.
So it's like you've got this great experience that Chris and his team have built, and they've figured out at every step of the way. Right? And if you're a developer, you're thinking okay, I've got a mobile workforce. I've got either the contractors, employees, people out in the field, right? You're probably saying, well, how do I get that? How do I figure out all the stuff that Chris and team spent years figuring out? Well, you'd have to build a phone number pool. You have to figure out which phone number to use, given the geography of the participants. When people call, you have to route the communications, expire sessions, all that stuff, right? And so we're asking ourselves, wow, if you all want that ability, or if you've got use cases it should be easier. We're asking ourselves, why isn't that an API? Can't it be easy for every company to have an experience just like Lyft's? Well, today we're excited to announce Twilio Proxy. This is a new product from Twilio to allow you to have an experience as good as Lyft's with just a few lines of code. So here's the problem, right? If you've got a mobile workforce, right, you've got a mobile worker, and then you've got a customer, and you want to let them communicate with each other, right? You could just let them call each other, just give out each other's phone numbers, right? But the problem is, if you do that, you have to worry about all sorts of things, like Chris just talked about, right? You have to worry about, is the mobile worker going to call the customer at 3 a.m.? Are they going to exchange credit card numbers or phone numbers and bypass you? There's all sorts of things you need to worry about. And that's where Twilio Proxy comes in, right? Because what you do is you insert the proxy in the middle of that communications. And now you can do a bunch of cool things to protect your participants and to protect your company. So first of all, Twilio takes care of the complexities of optimizing the phone number selection for you. We automatically figure out what's the best phone number, given the geographies of these participants, to allow them to communicate with each other. Right? Then we do automatic call and text routing, so when one person calls in, we automatically forward the call or text to the other party. We can expire the session. You can say, I want this to enable this for 60 minutes, and we do all the logic there. We also support multiple channels, right? It's not just phone numbers and text and voice, but also other places where you might want to protect identity, like Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else. Support multiple. And last, and this is really cool, you can do optional content filtering on the communications in the middle. So you can say, I don't want them to, no profanity. You can say, I don't want them to share phone numbers. I don't want them to share email addresses, no credit card numbers. All sorts of things you can do that you can just check on and say, Twilio, prevent these kinds of communications. We will redact it for you. So it's a really cool set of stuff. And what's really neat about it is you get all of this for basically a line of code, right? You just do this. You create a session, and you give us the participants, and you tell us who they are by what their phone numbers are. And what we do is we automatically figure out what phone number to use as the proxy, and we hand you back a phone number. And then that's what you show to the customers. And everything else just happens magically behind the scenes. It's that easy, one API call. So this is in preview today. You can learn more at twilio.com/proxy. If you've got a mobile workforce and you're trying to figure out how to make this great set of interactions, but do it safely and securely, Proxy is for you. I think you'll really find it cool. It's a neat product. Check it out. So as you can see, right, we've got these new APIs for system communications, for department communications, for individual communications. But if you notice, these new APIs are expressed a little bit differently than most REST APIs. In fact, it's something of a new paradigm in how you express APIs. It's a kind of, it's a more opinionated kind of API. So if you think about these APIs, right, in our programmable communications cloud, they're basically imperative. They're imperative APIs, like an imperative language. Tell us how to do a task. Tell us what commands to perform on your behalf. It's like imperative programming, right? Which is what most programming languages are. Give us a list of commands to run in order, and we'll do it for you. Right? And that's what most REST APIs are. Right? But sometimes 90% of what you want to accomplish is well understood. Right? Someone's already figured it out. You just want to adopt a system with best practices and common patterns already included in it, and move on to building your special sauce, the special thing you're trying to do. Right? That's why as developers we often pick frameworks on top of languages to accelerate our development of things like web applications. Right? It lets us focus on the building, right? Not the plumbing. Right? In Python we have Django, in Node we have Express, in PHP we have Laravel, Ruby as a Rails, right? We keep doing this. We keep building these frameworks that allow us to focus on the building, not the plumbing. And so when we look at these APIs up here, they work a bit differently. We're calling them declarative APIs, because we think that's closer to describing how they work. See, the magic of these APIs is that you tell us what you're trying to accomplish. Like, I want these two people to be able to talk to each other. You don't tell us step by step how to do it. You let us apply the common practices, the best practices, the common patterns. You let us do all that for you. Right? This is really a different way of expressing APIs, one that gives you both the flexibility that you love of APIs, but also lets you get to production faster, adopt the common patterns, not have to reinvent the wheel, really focus on building the thing that matters to you. And we think this is a neat pattern. And we've been building these new declarative APIs now for several years. And with Proxy, we've got all three types of communications engagements covered. So it's time to give this whole thing a name. These four products are the foundation of a new layer at Twilio. We're calling it the Twilio Engagement Cloud. And this is the newest part of Twilio's stack, and we're really excited to announce it today. Now, the thing about the Twilio Engagement Cloud is that it really changes the way we think about Twilio and the way I think you should think about Twilio. Right? We're not just a company that helps your apps communicate. Think about Twilio as the company that wants to help you engage with your customers. And we give you a wide variety of ways to do that. See, we want you to become the most engaging company in your industry. We want you to out-innovate, out-connect with your customers. We want you to build great experience with your customers, and it's that partnership between APIs that help you do things fast and your creativity that allows you to build that amazing experience. And that partnership between our APIs and your creativity, that's what gets us out of bed in the morning. And in fact, that partnership between developer-first companies and the creativity of the developers of the world, that's exactly why APIs are eating the world, especially with the power of declarative APIs. There's no limit to what we can do when you match great APIs together and your creativity. And we, and you, and all of us as developers are just getting started. We can't wait to see where this is going. Now, to learn more about the Engagement Cloud, I want to invite up Pat Malatak, VP and General Manager of Messaging here at Twilio. Pat.
Thanks, Jeff. So Jeff just introduced to all of you the Engagement Cloud, our means to help you improve the experience of customers interacting with your businesses. We captured the common patterns of successful digital experiences, and we built these declarative APIs. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel when you're communicating with your customers. One of the most frequently used patterns that we've seen from your systems communicating with your customers is allowing those systems to send out notifications. There's things like order notifications, flight alerts, appointment reminders, and so on. And that's why we built Notify, to address the common pattern around notifications. First, we saw that many of you needed to support multiple different channels for your system notifications. Over 50% of people don't even enable push on your app. And so implementing additional channels is a pain. And with Notify, we made the product multi-channel from the start. We also saw that you were adding a lot of logic to your systems around when and through which channel you needed to notify your customers. When your mobile app was deleted or the user changed phones, you wanted to notify your customer via a different channel, like SMS or email. So we gave Notify support for orchestrations. And finally, we're all tired of writing code to iterate through a list of customers and send off a million API requests. And so with Notify, we added support for segmentations. It allowed you to define a group and send one API request to notify all of them. With Notify, we put the user at the center of your applications, letting you declare their preferences, the channels, and interests, and Twilio handles the rest. And it's because Notify lets you declare what you want to have happen, not how, that Notify can abstract away a lot of the technical details, which is really, really useful for when APIs change. This is exactly what happened a few months back with Google. They announced that they'd be deprecating Cloud Messenger. You see all this documentation? It started with just 5 easy steps, but there's a lot more to read there. Let me tell you who didn't read any of that. Notify customers. That's because they didn't have to update anything. That's the power of declarative APIs. The other advantage of Notify is that Twilio, not you, is on the hook for adding additional channels. When Notify landed last year, we launched with a bunch of channels, with support for iOS and Android push, SMS, as well as OTTs like Facebook Messenger. But we made you a promise. As more channels emerged, Twilio would be first to add support for these new channels. And today, I'm excited to announce that only a couple weeks after Amazon announced the Alexa notifications platform, and before it's even generally available, that Twilio has been working with Amazon to bring Alexa's notifications to Notify. One company that's already taken advantage of these new capabilities in their upcoming Alexa skill is Mike. In today's news climate, notifications are a critical means to cut through all of that noise. Mike has been focused on getting the right news at the right time to their users. Let's have a look at what they've built.
It's such an important time for media in our changing world and our changing landscape, and Mike aims to be the most substantive news provider for a generation. They want to hear what Mike has to say when we're telling them it's important. As people move to new devices and new platforms, we're continuing to evolve our push and notification strategy. It has to be a material update to a story, something that you need to know at this very moment, and now you can get them through audio.
With the Tullio API, we tell Twilio what stories we want to push out to your device, for example. Through our internal tools, all these people who are interested would get that notification. Alexa, ask Mike now to subscribe me to Strut.
Great. We'll let you know when there's a story from Strut you can't miss.
That's a good thing about Twilio and its API. I can just focus on developing our skill and all the features we want to integrate it in the future.
That evolution continues to be refined, get more sophisticated in the new frontier and the new places that our audiences want. Literally, to hear Mike, we're there.
And it's not just Alexa that's changing in the world of notifications. Twitter recently announced that they're going to be making an API available for DMs as well, direct notifications via the Twitter platform. So I'm excited to announce that Twitter is coming to Notify as well. In fact, at Twilio, we've built an engine to onboard new channels in just a matter of days. And so today, we're announcing that Twilio will be adding support for a lot more channels as well, including support for additional OTTs like Kik, Line, and BBM. We're adding messaging apps like HipChat and Slack. But one of the biggest asks we've heard from all of you is that you've wanted to unify how your systems engage with your customers is the need for email support. And so today, there's one other channel I'm excited to bring to the Notify platform, and that's Sendgrid. Now, you can enable all the channels of communication with just a single declarative API. With Twilio, you can build for every channel imaginable. And rather than 10 different integrations for 10 different ecosystems, we let you integrate with all your systems to connect to your customers all at once. Notify future-proofs your service, so you can be ready for the channels of today and for whatever comes next. That's Channels, the latest edition of Notify and the Twilio Engagement Cloud. Next up, I'd like to invite up Oit, who's going to talk about how departmental communications are becoming more intelligent with declarative APIs.
Thank you, Patrick. So Patrick just talked about how we can use Notify to automate the communications with our customers. Let's now focus on the second part, departmental communications. So when people usually think about the departmental communications, they mean about contact centers. And when they think about contact center technology, they think of something like this. A piece of hardware that sits in your closet or in a server rack somewhere that's probably started off as a piece of Cisco equipment, and then you added up on top of that the IVR system, maybe some ACD, maybe recordings. And then you deal with multiple software providers, multiple hardware platforms, multiple vendors, support systems, licensing. And it's so hard to make them work together, let alone making a change. There's no API to that. See, in order to play the hold music, you need to attach your Sony Walkman into that. And when we talk to you, we hear how hard it is for you to make a change, to change the customer experience. Contact centers have not changed for the last 10, 15 years. Yet we're changing our website every day, running A/B tests. The most important place where your most critical customer communication happens, the contact center, doesn't have ability to change. Like, this is the place where customer loyalty or churn is decided quite often. And there's no curation, there's no iteration, there's no change. Because you need professional services to change that, because everything is cobbled up in a very complicated way. This is the architecture of today's typical contact center, constantly bolting on to the wrong foundation. There's definitely no API to change that, because like, if you want to change it, you think about, like, if I make this change to that, will this thing collapse? And this is the very situation when we talk to you. that we find that you're in. You want to change, but you cannot. Now, there's a different way. And companies like ING and Zillow and Weight Watchers, whom we just heard from Nick a while ago, they have found a better way. Way where you cannot just build the experience you want, but you can change it over time, like all the time. And that's why we find more and more customers coming to Tullio to build the contact center using the API-first approach, or augment their existing implementations and changing it over time, iterating, making it better bit by bit. To call out 3 reasons why we see more people choosing the API-first approach. These are, first, owning your own roadmap, building the experience you want, and then iterating over time, making it better. And it's not just for people who need super custom experiences, but it's for people who understand that the key to innovation is iteration. And if you cannot iterate, if you cannot change, if you cannot iterate, it takes 9 months to do A in an A/B test, and then another 9 to do the B, and then you discover that you didn't like any of them. It's kind of useless. So secondly, gradual migration. A lot of folks have huge investment in their existing infrastructure. And up until API-first approach was available, the only path to get rid of it or change it was to invest more money into professional services or to do complete rip and replace forklift migration. And that's the very definition of a career-limiting move. Whereas API-first approach enabled you to start small and change it little by little, like add click-to-call, add SMS to your support channel, add callback to your IVR. You can change your contact center slowly, gradually over time to get to the user experience you want. And third, omnichannel. And by the word omnichannel, it's kind of, by definition, we don't know how many channels there are because the requirements keep changing all the time, experiences keep changing all the time. And if you buy something out of the box, then the moment you put it in your rack, it's already outdated. So by building, by owning your own roadmap, as customer expectations change, you can change your contact center with it. And with the right set of APIs, you can change it very, very fast. That's why we invest in declarative APIs. Things like TaskRouter, which is a skills-based routing engine that's in the very heart of many contact center implementations built on Twilio. Because you can have control over your contact center and over what you're building. TaskRouter is one of the coolest products that we have. Its goal, its reason for being, its reason for existence is to connect the right interaction to the right agent at the right time. Things like deciding, is this lead more important than this call or this message? Using your business logic to make the right routing decisions, and then constantly monitoring your state of your contact center, what your agents are doing. Are they focusing on the most important thing? You can build so many things with TaskRouter. And you have done so that in this year alone, we have done more tasks than last 2 years combined. Now, there's one more thing that we've heard from you who have built your contact centers on top of TaskRouter is that you have also operators, people who need to operate that contact center, and they need visibility. It's absolutely critical to understand what your agents are doing. We have given you the SDKs to build the real-time dashboard analytics and reporting, but today we're excited to announce analytics add-ons for TaskRouter that gives you out-of-the-box insights into what's happening into your contact center. Companies like Whitica have spent 20 years perfecting the reports, and now they're out-of-the-box available for you to run your contact center on Twilio. Keen.io have been building a contact center reporting package, which is probably something that you've never seen before. You can stream data from TaskRouter and other sources and combine them, like you can use customer satisfaction data, agent efficiency, your revenue, agent utilization, and combine that and use it in real time to get real-time insights into your contact center performance. That's really, really a good thing for the operators of the contact centers. In addition to analytics add-ons, we're also announcing workforce management add-ons for TaskRudder. And these solve the problem how your agent gets paid, creating working schedules, and forecasting your future staffing loads. We're really excited to have our partners Verint and Teleopti available in a developer preview today at our marketplace. So there's one more thing. When people think about omni-channel, they usually mean in contact center like two channels. It's email and it's voice. And Pat talked about Notify and how we added many channels to that. What if people could reply to those notifications, those announcements that you send out, and you can use TaskRudder to route it to the right agent in the background? So that's why in the next upcoming months, we're bringing two-way access to many of those channels so that they can use in your contact center implementations. This means that we have, thank you. This means that we have the programmable set of APIs to build the next generation of the contact center, built on top of the quality and reliability of the super network and programmable communications cloud, with TaskRudder orchestrating the right interactions, and with a wide array of communication channels, and now with add-ons that give you insight and also able to give you your operators planning tools. This is the only way to build a contact center. This is the only way to have a contact center, an API-first approach that puts you in control. Now, there's one more thing I wanted to announce today. But Jeff wants to do that. So please welcome back Jeff Lawson.
Thank you, Hoyt.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Right, so we've been investing in this media engine here at Twilio. We've launched a bunch of things in the last year that let you do cool new things with your calls, right? We've got answering machine detection. That's really, really good now. We've got multi-channel recording. We've got all of these add-ons that allow you to analyze those recordings and do really interesting things with them so that you can program not just what's happening on the call, but you can also program, like, understand what's going on, understand your customers, do interesting things, actually gain more insights from what they're actually talking about and what they're actually saying. That's the value of media. But one thing that we have not let you do on Tullio, historically, is speech recognition. And I'll tell you the answer why. I hate speech recognition. I've always hated it, right? Because these approaches that people have had for a really long time to speech recognition, these vendors, it was really hard, right? First of all, it was hard to scale. You had to buy ports and licenses and all this sort of stuff, right? And it never works, right? It's really frustrating. You'd say, I want pizza, and it'd be like, something else would happen, right? And it was really frustrating. And so you had to, it was hard to build, hard to license, hard to pay for. As a developer, you had to play with these acoustic models with recordings of users and try to map them, right? It was a mess. And so we said, like, if we launched a product that did speech recognition on top of that old technology, our product would be crappy, expensive, and hard to use. Sounds great. Where do I sign up? Right? So that's why we never did speech recognition as part of Twilio, even though a lot of you through the years are asking us, can we have speech recognition? Because there's things that we want to build. And like I, as a developer, said, I would love for this to work. But here's the cool thing. In recent years, machine learning has changed all of that. Right? The accuracy has shot way up. So now when you call, it'll work for you, right? New methods in the cloud and new types of companies have jumped into this space and made it much better. So today, I'm excited to announce not one, but two products, speech recognition and Twilio understanding, to actually help you build better apps. So first of all, speech recognition, real-time speech-to-text that we built in partnership with Google's machine learning. Now, as you'd expect, it works exactly like you want it to. First of all, it's on-demand scaling. So there's no ports, there's no licenses, there's nothing like that you have to figure out. It's just there for you when you need it, no matter what your call volume is. Second is it's cost effective. It's just 2 cents per recognition to use. And it's pay as you go. You just get started. And then lastly, because it's partnered with Google here, it's been trained on the world's data set. And so it actually works out of the box in 89 languages and dialects. So that's speech recognition. And that is in beta today. It's part of gather. It's part of the gather verb. You just say input equals speech, and you can turn it on. So go to the gather documentation. You can figure out how it works. I think you're gonna love it, right? So that's speech recognition. But the other one is understand, because getting raw text from speech is just part of it. Because then the question is, what do you do with that text? Right? Sometimes you want to put it in a database or something like that. That's great. But oftentimes, you don't need just the words. You actually need to understand what the person is saying. And that's where Twilio Understand comes in. Twilio Understand is natural language understanding by Twilio. And this is a field, natural language understanding, that has also been transformed in recent years by machine learning. Right? It's how computers figure out what you mean, not just what you said. And so if you're curious how this works, essentially, if you say a sentence such as, I'd like to fly from New York to San Francisco, right? We as human beings, we tend to understand what that means. You want to book a flight, right? But a computer with machine learning trained on the problem domain can figure out how to parse out the intent of what you said as well as the details of what you said, the entities, right? And so what you end up with here is you parse this out and you say, I'd like to fly. Well, that's actually the intent. And then the details of what you want, those are the entities of New York and San Francisco. And what it does is it parses them out into variables from city and to city, right? And then you can program against this because now you know what your customer wanted. But the hard thing is customers don't always say, I'd like to fly, right? Sometimes they say, I want a ticket from New York to San Francisco. Or they say, yeah, can I go from New York to San Francisco? Or maybe Grimlock has called your line and says, me want airplane from New York to San Francisco. Right? So you never know what people are going to say, and so you really need a system that's smart that can figure out, based on a whole variety of inputs, what a person actually meant by what they said. And that's what natural language understanding does. And that's what Twilio Understand is going to do for your apps. So Twilio Understand is 3 things. First of all, it's a training environment where you can train Twilio Understand with all the things that your customers might talk about, your domain, right? The thing that is relevant to your business, right? And number 2, it is the understanding engine, the thing that actually executes those models against text that we get that actually generates the intent and the entities for you. And that's simple, scalable, in the cloud software. And then third, Twilio Understand is the understand TWIML verb that runs right in your call flows. It's a TWIML verb. It works just like you'd expect, and it's really easy. You just put that in your call flow, and it works. Now, Twilio Understand is coming soon. You can learn more at twilio.com/understand. I could keep telling you about Understand, but you know what? Instead, I want to show you, so let's do some coding. So what we've got here, there it is, nice and big. This is a typical IVR that you might imagine, right? You're calling a company, Twilio Jet. Of course, that's our new airline. I don't know if you know. That's the other thing we wanted to announce today. So yeah, you're calling Twilio Jet, and things you might do when you call an airline, right? Press 1 to book a flight, press 2 for flight status, and we use gather to get digits, and it goes to the result. And we go here. This is a simple node application with Express, and this would be a very simpler result handler that would just say back to you, thank you for pressing digit, which is approximately the world's worst IVR. But let's try it anyway, just so you can see it working. I'm going to show you the logs here. So this is a node running here, and I'm going to call Twilio Jet, and if we get the audio.
Welcome to Twilio Jet. Press 1 to book a flight. Press 2 for flight status. Thank you for pressing 1.
There you go. So nice and simple. That's what you'd expect to happen if you called Twilio Jet, which is really, it's just lunch today. Give us a break, all right? All right, so now let's go back and let's upgrade this with some smarts here. So instead of press 1 to book a flight or press 2 for flight status, we're going to delete that, and we're going to say, please tell us what you want. And then instead of gather, we are going to go and we're going to do understand. And we're going to give it a model. And so we've trained a model already on the world of travel, like travel intents. We call it Twilio Jet. That's the name of the model we created. And we give it an action to call back to once the understanding is done, and that's called the result. Actually, we can use the same one we had before. Great. And now I'm going to go to my handler here. So this is our /result handler. And now we're going to start upgrading this handler to actually understand. So we're going to start here by some new variables. Let result equal request dot body dot understand result. Or we're actually pull the query too. I'll show you why in a second. Query dot understand result. Very good. Now we're going to pull out a few things. So let's get the intent. So intent equals result dot intent. And we're going to get our from city, which is one of those entities. So result dot entities dot from city. And it's actually an array, so we're going to pull out the first one. Let toCity equal result.entities.toCity, and we're going to pull out the first result there too. Now what we're going to do, first of all, let me log this to the console so you can see what's happening. I'll just put all the raw results out there. And the other thing I'm going to do is, imagine if you were building an actual flight booking system, you'd do something like, call some back-end system to book a ticket. Our very broke version of that is we're just going to put it on the screen, a ticket. And we built a little web app that shows you a nice ticket here. In fact, this is what it is. It actually uses Twilio Sync to actually pub data off, and then it comes up on the browser on the screen. So here's the sync code that we wrote. I didn't want to write all of this on stage, sorry. And it actually just gets the from city and the to city and draws a nice thing on the screen there. So I'm going to do that. So show ticket is the function, and we give it a from city and a to city. And that's what we do. Okay, now, so that's what's going to happen on the screen. That just simulates booking a ticket or whatever it would be doing. But now let's actually respond to the caller. And so let's say, thank you. I'll book you a ticket departing from city going to going to city. Have a great trip. Exclamation point. We're very friendly, okay? And then that's going to return that TWIML to the caller, and that'll be it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go to my browser. I'm going to make sure I didn't screw up the XML, so that parses correctly. I'm also going to go to the result handler and just make sure I didn't screw that up. Great. And if you pull that other page up, there you go. We've got our little animation there that's triggered by running that. I'll run it again. There we go. Boom. Hold on a second. It's really cool. Yeah, there it is. Okay, cool. All right, so that's what's going to happen if we book a ticket, right? So let's go to the logs there. Oh, that was the logs running from my demo there. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to make a call and...
Welcome to Twilio Jet. Please tell us what you want.
Please book me a flight from New York to London.
Thank you. I'll book you a ticket departing New York going to London. Have a great trip.
So there you go. So there you go, live coding, a natural language understanding powered IVR. And that's really cool because it allows people to call in to your business and just say what they want, and you'll be able to actually figure out and program and get them what they want without having all the DTMF and stuff like that that can sometimes get annoying. But we didn't stop there. See, sometimes you want to call a business, but customers are starting to interact with businesses not just via voice, right? As we saw with Rinse, right? Customers want to start texting with businesses too. And so Understand is a multi-platform product. It works for voice, and it also works with SMS. In fact, let me show you that. So if you could pull up this iPhone here. There we go. So I've got an iPhone. I'm going to text the number, and you can still see the logs here, the exact same code. And I'm just going to say, please book a flight from, I don't know, Boston to Detroit. That's where I'm from. Let's do it. Please book a flight from Boston to Detroit. And there we are. I'll book you a ticket departing Boston, going to Detroit. Have a great trip. So it's a multi-platform model. You just train the model once and use TWIML to be able to program multiple channels. But the thing is, there's another emerging channel that your customers are starting to interact with you on. And we said, can we power that too? It's another channel for voice communications that is not a phone call. Yes, I'm talking about Alexa. This one seems to have lost power. Good thing we have a backup. We plan for everything. All right, so it's so cool, right? People are starting to get Alexas in their houses, and you want to interact with brands, and brands are just starting to figure out what happens if I let you interact with me via this new channel. But one of the things that we said about building for Alexa and building for voice and building for SMS is if once you go through the work of building your models, training those models, what are the domain, what are the things people want to talk about as it relates to your business, but you only want to do that once. And so we're making it so that when you train your models with Twilio Understand, not only can they power the understand verb, but we can sideload them into Alexa and power other experiences as well. And that's exactly what we've done with this Alexa here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute it, otherwise it would have kept going off every time I said her name. And let's talk to it. Hey Alexa, ask Twilio Jet to book us a flight from New York to Boston.
Thank you. I'll book you a ticket departing New York going to Boston. Have a great trip.
There you go. So what you see there is this true power of Twilio Understand working across multiple platforms, right? Because with Twilio Understand, what we want is for you to be able to use TWIML to power every kind of interaction you have. TWIML should power voice, messaging, bots, personal assistants like Alexa, and more. Get the simplicity and ease of using TWIML that you've all come to understand and love, but to power so many more experiences than you have historically. We're really excited about that, because here's our vision, right? No matter what the channel is, voice, SMS, chat, Alexa, whatever you have, everywhere customers talk to you, Twilio will understand. And we're starting by supporting the channels your customers are using today, the phone call and IVRs, but also supporting the channels that they may be using in the future. Train it once, write your app once, and run everywhere where your customers may want to talk to you. That's the promise of Twilio Understand, and we can't wait to see what you build with it. We're very excited. Now, there's one more thing that we wanted to do before we closed up today. We launched a lot of neat stuff today. Phone numbers in 100 countries, Twilio proxy, all sorts of stuff. There's a lot that we put out there today, and we're really excited to see what you build with all of this stuff. But before we close it out, we know that you all love hacking, and so do we. We can't wait. Go to the breakout sessions today, learn how to hack on some of these new products. Have fun learning from the people who built them, teaching you how to use them. But there's another thing that we like to hack on too, and you may have noticed, the badges that you have are actually hackable. They're 3G wireless, Twilio wireless powered badges, and you can text the Signal shortcode, claim the badge to your phone number, and then you can text commands to it, and you can actually hack on that badge during the conference. You can also upload new firmware and do all sorts of cool things to it, which is really cool. And so we wanted to do one thing. Actually, here's my badge. We wanted to do one thing, right? As many of you who have Alexas may have done, is you use your Alexa to actually power smart home. You've wired it up to all the things. You power your lights and all sorts of stuff. And we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we could do that too? So let's see if we can do something like that. We wired up the Alexa to some cool automation here. Arnold, turn down the lights. Oh, sorry, Arnold is the production manager backstage. I don't know why I looked at the, all right. Alexa, ask Signal to turn on the lights.
Okay.
your badges are turning on. We are really excited for what you're going to do today. Tomorrow morning, we're starting at 9:15 a.m. We've got Mark Benioff, DoSomething.org, an update on Twilio Wireless, our keynotes for messaging and voice, and there's a whole lot more coming. So have fun today. Enjoy those breakouts. We can't wait to see what you build. Have a great day.